This narrative starts on March 7th. This is James Dean's first appearance on a national magazine. Headline movie news star. He's a rising star at the time. He has played in one movie. He's defeated. He's depicted as a Baudelairian flaneur, as an urban explorer, as a passionate observer. In the article it says that he engages in self-analysis. He's depicted as someone very self-reflective. And this is the beginning of James Dean's public persona as someone very philosophical, one could say. On March 28th starts the production of the movie Rebel Without a Cause. We will leave out our narrative a little bit to explore different scenes of that movie. It was directed by Nicholas Ray, and Nicholas Ray, in an interview, according to the Cinematograph magazine, said about the 50s that it was a time of opulence, of parental negligence. And so Nicholas Ray's opinions about the 50s transpire through the movie and helps defining James Dean's public persona. As the movie starts, Jim Stark, played by James Dean, is 17 years old, is brought to the police station, picked up in the street, half drunk, and his parents lecture him.
You can't protect me.
Do you mind if I try? Do you have to slam the door in my face? I'm trying to get to him. What happened? Don't I buy you everything you want? A bicycle? You get a bicycle. A car?
You buy me many things.
Well, not just buying. We give you love and affection, don't we? Well, then when is it? Was it because we went to that party? Well, you know what kind of drunken brawls those kind of parties turn into. It's not a place for kids.
A minute ago you said you didn't care if he drinks. He said a little drink.
You're tearing me apart!
So in that scene, Jim Stark confronts his parents' consumerist alienation. Don't I buy you everything you want? A bicycle? And he doesn't care, because he's that rebellious teenager. Later on in the movie, adolescent rituals are depicted. The emphasis is put on those adolescent rituals because they confront adult norms. Adolescence in the movie opposes those suburban adults. One of those rituals is the blade game.
Oh, he's real abstract. He's different.
That's right. That's right. I'm cute too.
Is that meaning me? Is that meaning me? Chicken.
Yes.
I don't want any trouble.
The blade game, huh, Buzz? I thought only punks fought with knives.
Well, who's fighting? I'm fighting. It's examination time, man. It's a crazy game. Yeah, I'm trying to get him a knife.
Buzz is the rival figure in the movie. In that scene, both characters will not literally fight. I wouldn't call it a fight. They will test themselves to see how far each of them is willing to go to feel alive, to feel something at least. That's the rhetoric of the movie, and this rhetoric defines Jim Stark and James Dean's persona. Another ritual is the cheeky run. The cheeky run is simple. Both adolescents, Buzz and Jim, drive towards a deadly cliff, and the first one who jumps out of the car is a chicken. Now, if you don't jump in time, you crash and die. Now, as you can imagine, this was not a thing to do for adolescents in the 50s. Let's be clear about this. However, because this is Nicholas Ray's vision about suburban society in the 50s, this extremism in adolescent rituals transpire through the movie and defines, as I said, James Dean's persona. After Buzz's death, Jim comes back home and discusses with his parents whether he should go to the police or not, because that's the moral thing to do. Maybe he should tell people what happened. And so he confronts his parents.
But I am involved. We are all involved. Mom, a kid was killed tonight. I don't see how I can get out of that by pretending that it didn't happen.
Well, you know that you did the wrong thing. That's the main thing, isn't it?
It's nothing. That is absolutely nothing. Dad, you told me. You said you want me to tell the truth. Now, didn't you say that? You can't turn it off.
Well, he's not saying that. He's saying just don't volunteer.
Just tell a little white lie.
You'll learn when you're older, Jim.
Well, I don't think that I'm going that way.
You'll learn when you're older, Jim. I don't think I'm going to learn that way. Here, Jim embodies the ultimate adolescent who refuses to grow up like his parents. He embodies that inevitable stage between adolescence and adulthood, where preconceptions and illusions are crashed and replaced with adulthood resignation. The movie production ends on May 25th, and during the summer, James Dean will shoot another movie. It's called Giant, and he will also participate in car racing. That was one of his hobbies. On September 30th, he's driving towards one of those car races, and he crashes and dies. We are fish and we drown. We remain in one world and wander. The fortunate are taught to ask why. No one can answer. This is an extract from a letter James Dean once sent to the minister who conducted the ceremony and who wrote the obituary in the Fairmount News. So that type of tribute reinforced James Dean's persona as someone poetic, someone philosophical, I would say. Now here's the thing. 28 days later, the movie we've been talking about is released. The people in the theater saw James Dean going through a car race towards a deadly cliff, knowing that he had died a couple of days before. In the weeks that followed the movie release, his Los Angeles apartment was wrecked by the fans who wanted to get a piece of what James Dean had once. The Porsche he died in was dismantled into souvenir pieces for the fans, sold in a public auction. Actress Steffi Sidney, she had a small part in the movie. She would say in November 1955 that driving by her high school, she would see boys wearing the red jacket. The red jacket that had been put back on sale by the main Hollywood store right after the movie release for $23. A scout leader in December 1955 would tell Stuart Stern, the screenwriter, that kids in school who had fallen for Jimmy Dean had gone out of control, and that there had been knife fights over schools, in schools. Now, whether those testimonies are relevant or not, because it's an actress and a scout leader, it still gives an insight of how the hysteria, how the craziness started. September 26, 1956, a year later, Life magazine publishes an article, Delirium over Death Star. In that article, we learned that 8,000 letters were sent to James Dean in the previous year. That made him the most popular actor of the time, even if he was dead. In those letters, you could see, you could read, "No, Jimmy, not the great James Dean. I know you're not dead." That kind of thing. That echoes Michael Jackson's death, for example, which is something that happens when an icon dies, that the fans deny the death. March 7th, 1957, this is exactly 2 years after James Dean's first appearance on a national magazine, and this is the end of our narrative today. Margaret Mora in Cleveland, Ohio, wrote a letter in response to the previous article we talked about. And she says, "To us teenagers, Dean was a symbol of the fight to make a niche for ourselves in the world of ethics." Now here's the thing. She's not talking about James Dean. She's talking about Jim Stark. She's talking about Jim Stark that she saw in Rebel Without a Cause. And this amalgam is at the source of the myth. This amalgam between Jim Stark and James Dean is James Dean's mythical persona. In a way, Jim Stark is James Dean. I will wrap up this presentation by quoting drama historian Kenneth Cross, who said, "Teenagers saw in Jim Stark's parents the blind conformism of their own, and James Dean was showing them visually what they believed they were feeling." Thank you for your attention. Now, if some of you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So this is kind of stupid. It was a jacket. Is the jacket leather? Is it red leather?
No, it's nylon. Nylon?
Nylon? Okay.
Nylon. Yeah.
So you said Rebel Without a Cause is kind of the quintessential rebellious movie. Are there
One
any
of
ones-
them.
Yeah, are there any ones that come before that that you kind of thought about or
Of course.
come to mind?
The first one that I can really think of is The Wild Ones with Marlon Brando, 1953. He plays a gang leader, motorcycle gang leader. In March 1955 is released The Blackboard Jungle, which is also a movie about teenage school violence. So that answers the question. All right. Oh.
I'm just curious, do you think that there's something that like sets this specific era and specific icon apart from like things that happen later on? Because like, I'm thinking of ideas like Kurt Cobain from Nirvana dying young and then still kind of setting up this idea of like this mythos surrounding that he is like becomes a symbol for teenage rebellion during his era. Do you think it happens in every generation, kind of this cycle where there's always like one character specifically that stands out above the rest?
I remember reading a scholar analysis of the myth of the young hero who dies. And this is something really present in the Western culture. That some says it started with Achilles in the Odyssey. So yeah, it is definitely the icon, as I said, of that era. In some decades before, Rudolph Valentino, also an actor who died, started the same kind of momentum. So James Dean did not invent that.